to our colleague Councillor Hannah Edwards, who sadly passed away last week. I know I speak for all of us when I say how much Hannah will be missed, and our thoughts are with the family and her colleagues. Please can I remind everyone to switch their microphones on when speaking and after speaking to turn the microphone off, otherwise the camera will remain on you for the benefit of those watching the online webcast. Apologies, please.
Chair, we've received apologies from Councillor Smith and Councillor Chatfield is attending as his substitute.
Thank you very much. Item 2 on the agenda, to confirm the minutes of the Conduct Committee held on the 7th of February 2023 and receive an update of actions agreed in the minutes of the previous meeting. I believe that the only person who was here for that meeting was Councillor Brown. So are you happy to propose that the minutes be approved?
Yes, I am, Chairman.
Thank you. And as Chair, I will second those minutes. All those in agreement, all those in agreement, please? Excellent. Thank you. That's nice and...
Can we just confirm the abstentions, Chair?
Oh, sorry, yes, we have several abstentions. Well, I'll second it. So where do I pose?
You can vote in favour, Chair.
I'll
take that as 3 in favour and 4 abstentions.
Thank you. Thank you. So we should have cleared that before. Item 3, declarations of interest. In accordance with the regulations, members are invited to declare any disclosable interests under the Code of Conduct and the nature of those interests in respect to the items on this agenda, and or indicate if Section 106 of the Local Government Finance Act 1992 applies to them. Do we have any declarations? Thank you. Item 4, petitions and deputations of questions.
None received, Chair.
Item 5, questions with notice from members.
None received, Chair.
Item 6, notices of motion. To consider any notices of motion from members submitted under Procedure Rule 97.
None received, Chair.
I come to item 7, which is the appointment of Vice Chairman. With regard to the Vice Chair, I ask for a proposer and a second for each nomination, and then take a vote on each nominee and then proceed to the next nomination. And as a Chair, I would like to propose Andrew Brown. Any other proposals for Vice Chair?
Sorry, is that seconded, Chair?
Sorry. Thank you. It is seconded. Thank you. Councillor Payne. No other nominations? Can we please all raise our hands if we're in favour of Councillor Brown as Vice Chair?
That's unanimous, Chair.
So Andrew Brown is duly appointed as Vice Chair. Item 8, arrangements for member conduct complaints. And we're going to receive a report number 76/2024 from the Monitoring Officer, who is Sarah tonight. So if you'd like to present the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. To confirm, I'm the Deputy Monitoring Officer here on behalf of the Monitoring Officer this evening. So what the report does is it presents amended arrangements for dealing with member conduct complaints. So the Monitoring Officer is responsible for conduct of members of Rutland County Council and all other councils within Rutland. Each council is entitled to have its own code of conduct, but those complaints are then all dealt with by the Monitoring Officer, and the Monitoring Officer must have arrangements for dealing with those complaints. They were last reviewed in 2022, and what is proposed in the arrangements is the main difference is the introduction or formalising the initial assessment. So when a complaint comes in, the proposal in the revised version is that there is a process of 21 days whereby the Monitoring Officer can make some initial inquiries to assess should it be accepted as a complaint, because only those complaints which fall within the relevant criteria, fall within the remit of the Monitoring Officer, should be accepted as such and which should proceed, because there are matters put forward which aren't complaints. Sometimes you find that individual members aren't named, sometimes you find there are matters which are perhaps a corporate complaint or something which is a complaint about a decision of the council as opposed to specific member conduct. And the initial assessment also allows for the Monitoring Officer the time to ascertain whether there is sufficient evidence or sufficient information to proceed. with the matter any further. So that's the main difference. There's also some tidying up, if you like, some simplifying of the language to make it as straightforward as possible. One of the other proposals is following a discussion is to also state the requirement for confidentiality. That can't be enforced as such, but the failure to keep a complaint confidential whilst it's being looked into can compromise it. So that really should be set out in the arrangements so that everyone is clear about that there is an expectation of confidentiality and it can't be put any further than that. The background is set out within the report, and those are main differences, as has been stated. The other is like I say, the formalisation of the initial assessment, and then that the subject member isn't notified until the initial assessment has taken place. And the reason for that is sometimes there can be complaints that aren't fully backed up or that can't be supported as such, and it's important that a subject member doesn't have that hanging over them for any longer than is necessary, that by the time they're made aware of it, that it's absolutely something that is going to be at the very least regarded as some matter that, if you like, can be accepted as a complaint. So that's the reason for that. They'll still know about it, but that slight delay is considered to be fairer to them. Chair, unless there are any questions, that's the report.
Thank you very much. I was going to ask, yes, Councillor Watt.
I've got one question. I mean, I think the direction of travel with this is absolutely right. It's not about that. It's just a purely detailed thing. In Appendix A, under number 9, the full investigation, the third paragraph says, if the subject member admits that they've breached the Code of Conduct, the matter will be referred to the Conduct Committee for a decision about what sanctions should be imposed. And I wasn't quite clear, certainly not at that point, what happens if the subject member doesn't admit it. And I wondered if that then refers on to paragraph 12, where there is a breach and they get basically summoned or whatever, whether that's how I should read it. I just found it a bit confusing.
Thank you, Councillor Waller, for that. I will read back over that and make sure that's clear, but to explain the process, once the decision has been made for a matter to go to a full investigation, then it will be for the Conduct Committee to make a decision on the outcome. So even if the finding is of no breach, it would still be for Conduct Committee to confirm that that's the position on it. So all matters at that stage will go to Conduct Committee. So I'll make sure that that's abundantly clear so there can't be any confusion on that.
Come back on that. Thank you, Sarah. I wonder whether there might, when you look through it, be a case for cross-referencing.
Thank you for that. If I will go back over it and make sure that it's very clear, and yes, cross-referencing may well do that. Thank you.
Yes, Councillor
At
Brown.
what stage does the person who is being complained about get told they're being complained about? Because if it's a vexatious and frivolous or completely ludicrous complaint, do they still get to know about it and sort of have to worry about it? Or if it's dismissed completely out of hand, do they just don't know it ever happened?
Thank you, Chair. That's a really interesting question, and actually part of the reason for the delay. So we hadn't been always notifying, but actually what we would want to do is, following the initial assessment, the subject member would be notified at that stage. And what's become clear is it's helpful for them to have confirmation. So if the decision of the monitoring officer is that it's not a matter that's going to either be accepted as a complaint, but accepted and isn't going to proceed for the reason you've just described, then they would be written to with confirmation of that. So it's already resolved, and it would be written in such a way that they could share it if they needed to deal with any sort of references to there being a complaint or something like that. They would have the confirmed position from the monitoring officer.
And what would be the sort of timescale for that?
It's 21 days for that initial assessment.
Right, okay.
I believe
Thank
it's 3 for acknowledgement, I believe. I have to remind myself of and then 21 for the initial assessment.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. Just going back to paragraph 9 on page 4 again. I was just a bit confused, actually. I hadn't thought about the implications of that until Councillor Waller raised her question. But so, if the subject member admits they have breached the code of conduct, implies that somebody's told them they've breached the code of conduct.
Yes, Chair. This is part of the full investigation as opposed to the initial assessment. So by the time it's gone to full investigation, the subject member would be notified, because they would have been notified after that initial assessment where that decision would have been taken that a full investigation is required.
Okay, sorry, can I follow up? So I mean, this seems to be therefore different to sort of court principle of innocent until proven guilty, if you like, in the sense that what you're saying is if they admit they've breached the code of conduct, they go straight to the sanctions process, and they therefore appear to skip number 12.
Let me... In terms of the
in terms of the determination of whether or not they have breached, it just seems to be an inconsistent process.
So you think it should be that the admission of the breach should be part of it? I mean, it's because if they're accepting that they're responsible for a breach, there wouldn't be that same need for a full investigation.
Well, it depends if their knowledge of the rules of conduct are adequate, if you like, in the sense that they're able to make that decision.
The monitoring officer would need to be satisfied that what they are admitting to constitutes a breach of the code of conduct, and that they have the full facts as are aware at that stage. It's fully possible that they could make an admission and that would simply be part of the report that would then go to members to still then make a decision on it if the position wasn't absolutely clear-cut despite an admission. Really what it's doing is it's giving the ability for the matter to come to conduct committee without the need for a full investigation where the member has fully accepted their actions and the matter is absolutely clear-cut. So it doesn't mean that it has to if there's a lack of clarity, or if the monitoring officer is the view that the conduct committee would still want to know more to be able to make an overall decision on whether a sanction was appropriate, and if so, what sanction was appropriate. But it simply means that if, for want of a better way of putting it, we don't have to go through the motions where it's simply not necessary for full investigation, because actually without that paragraph, the arrangements would suggest that there has to be a full investigation.
Councillor Waller.
Thank you. I think then the wording in that third paragraph of 9 has to change. It says the matter will be referred.
So we'll replace will with can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I might just make another adjustment that actually it can be referred to the conduct committee, full stop, because then the conduct committee can work through it. But I don't know whether our independent person, Gordon Grimes, has a view on that.
Yeah, Sarah and myself went through this. You know, we had a talk, so I agree with, you know, I do agree with the way that it's set out. I think the points that have been made tonight, that as Sarah's captured, are fine in regards to that, and the same, you know, the point you've just made regarding that. You know, it does. You know, I think for me, it's tidying up some of the elements around this, and we went through and took out some ambiguities that we spotted, But obviously the point of yourselves discussing it is to further refine that as well. So I'm very comfortable with all of that.
Chair, if I can just add, I would also put into that paragraph in following consultation with the independent person. I appreciate the paragraph starts with that, but the point about the admission is subsequent to that. So I'd put that in that paragraph as well, so that it's absolutely clear.
Thank you. Councillor Waller.
Yes, it's a question in that paragraph, actually thinking about it now, and I apologise for not raising it earlier. It says, referred to the Conduct Committee for a decision about what sanction should be imposed, sorry. Should it be, question, what sanction, if any, should be imposed?
Yes, so under the list of sanctions under it, there is no sanction, if you like, as one of the options. But to make it abundantly clear under paragraph 9, yes, what, if any, sanction would make it clearer. So, yeah.
Councillor Payne.
Could I make a comment about another point in the document, please? Section 9 deals with what action can the Conduct Committee take where a member has failed to comply with the Code of Conduct. And I know it's not one of the changes you're asking us to agree tonight, but it left a question mark in my mind. Point 3 says the Conduct Committee can effectively make recommendations to full council to remove the member from the committees and other appointments unless the member is a member of a political group, in which case the decision could only be to recommend the group leader to change the group's nominated appointees. It then makes no reference to how the group leader should handle that. And does the group leader have to actually comply with the recommendation of the Conduct Committee? It left question marks in my mind.
Chair, thank you. It's no more than a recommendation that can be made there.
Okay, so the group leader needn't necessarily comply with the Conduct Committee's recommendation.
Correct.
Okay. Doesn't actually say that anywhere though, does it?
I can phrase that to make it
yeah, it just sort of
clearer.
left it hanging to me. There was a gap that hadn't been closed.
Thank you. I think that's been there for a very long time. I've had discussions about that before. Thank you.
I'll make it
Yes,
clearer.
sorry.
If it's useful, Chair, the ability for group leader to make the decision dates back to the 1989 political group regulations, I believe it is, and so there's nothing that this council can do to override the provisions of that legislation.
Maybe it should refer to that then, rather than leave a gap in the comment.
Yeah, I'll make that addition. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So any other comments or questions? No. So I would like to move the recommendation on page 5 that the committee recommends approval of the revised arrangements with the amendments that we've talked about for dealing with member conduct complaints, which are set out in Appendix A to Council.
Chair, can I ask that that's subject to the discussed amendments? So with those amendments.
Yeah, sorry, I had included. We do want to include those in there, please. So I think it's just for a recommendation. So can I please have a vote on that? All in favour? Oh, sorry, you want a second? There we go. Be kept in order. Yes, very good. Thank you, Vice Chair. Oh, Councillor Waller was seconding. So all those in favour, please. Thank you.
That's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much. Item 9 is exclusion of the press and public. But I have been advised that the Deputy Monitoring Officer would like to briefly introduce the report and provide headline details of complaints received in the public session. After this, we will look to whether we need to exclude the press and public. So if I could hand over to Sarah again. Thank you.
Chair, thank you. Chair, if I can say, the report that has gone with the log of complaints, which it was agreed some years ago that we would report on annually, very much simply produces that log, and actually, whilst it's appropriate and it may be appropriate for the log itself with names and so on to be dealt with in private session to be exempt, nonetheless there is more information than is currently provided that could have been contained in the report, and I would say going forward it would be my intention to make sure that that is included in the report, because as is, it doesn't give any information at all, and that's not satisfactory because there should be as much in the public domain as can be. But a headline, in terms of the complaints received in the municipal year 2023 to 4, there were 16 complaints received overall. 3 of those were at Stretton Parish Council, 3 at Uppingham Town Council, and the remainder were in respect of Rutland County councillors. None of them have progressed. Now, I beg your pardon, I said 16 in that year, 2 for Uppingham, 3 for Stretton, the 11 for Rutland. None of them progressed to a full investigation or to a hearing before the Conduct Committee. There was either an informal resolution or no further action in respect of them. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I will now move that the press and the public are excluded for the reasons set out on the agenda, and I will just run through that. The committee is recommended to determine whether the public and press be excluded from the meeting in accordance with the section 100 brackets A brackets 4 of the Local Government Act 1972 as amended, and in accordance with the access to information provisions of Procedure Rule 239, as the following item of business is likely to involve the disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 1 of part 1 of the Schedule 12A of the Act. Paragraph 1, information relating to the financial or business affairs of any particular person, including the authority holding that information. So I'd like to propose that we go into exempt. Can I please have a seconder? Can we please, are we all happy to go in exempt? Thank you.
That's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you.
If you just bear with me a moment, sorry.
We will.
Councillors.